Hey guys, Paulie from Meldrum Performance Coaching and Complete Personal Trainer Podcast. So today going to be talking about athletic development and programming for athletes in the context of a personal trainer. So caveat at the beginning of a disclaimer, etc. Most strength and conditioning work, pretty much all of it, you should really look at getting qualified as a strength and conditioning coach or registered in your country, whether it's NSCA, ASCA, whatever it is. And a lot of the time, this work will be best left to the person who's working with that client if they're playing at a pretty high level. So most clubs, well, in other countries, not Australia, have strength and conditioning programs that they work with. So that being said, all the content from this comes from my experience, which admittedly is a lot. So I've worked with about 6 to 10 Olympic athletes. I can't remember the exact number. I haven't broken it down yet, in disciplines from steeplechase to sprinting to swimming to other things as well. And I've worked in an official strength and conditioning capacity for swimming, rowing, basketball, rugby union, soccer, netball, tennis, rowing, ice skating, parkour, and a few other things. So I've got a pretty extensive background in strength and conditioning work with people. I don't talk about it a lot because it's not my primary marketplace that I'm looking to work with, and there's lots of people out there who are really, really passionate about it. This conversation comes out as a result of a text message conversation I had with one of my students who asked me if I had any soccer mesocycles on TeamBuilder, my programming software. And my answer to that was there is no such thing as a soccer mesocycle. And he'd been looking up linear periodization approaches for soccer on YouTube for some programming advice for a client. So the first thing, when you have a client who wants to get involved in playing sport at a better level, the first thing that you need to do is really qualify where they're at and do some kind of pre-screening. So you need to identify their training age and their training background if they have one or not. And then you need to have some pretty basic performance assessments and markers before you worry about doing any of your other programming, because unless you know what you're trying to achieve and improve based on where it is, you don't really know what you're going to do. So with that, this particular person had like a deadlift of 40 kilos for 8 and was goblet squatting 20 kilos, and they had no training age in the gym. This is the first time they had joined the gym, and it was a basic level rec soccer program. So my first kind of point with that type of athlete and client, it doesn't mean that they shouldn't be taken seriously, because a lot of people will go, oh, they're just mucking around, who cares? They may take it seriously, and they actually may want to get pretty good at it. So it's our job to be able to communicate to them that basic approaches, like just basic strength improvement and mobility improvement work, will work really well for that client. If someone's only got the force capacity to output 40 kilos on a deadlift, bringing that up to a decent level is going to improve their power in the gym, power in the field, it's going to improve the resilience of their structure against injury and insult. It's going to do a ton for them. So for most clients that we'll be working with as personal trainers, without that much training experience, the best program for them is basically to develop a general level of strength, a general level of mobility, and a general level of training competence. And that will improve their performance like a great deal just from doing that alone, because the other half of their performance improvements are going to be technical. So playing the sport more, practicing more, etc. So our training needs to complement that and not be exhausting enough that they can't actually do that. So an example of that is, I'm trying to play basketball at a pretty high level again this year. I'm not doing really heavy squats at the moment or anything like that for my knees, because I want to give my knees a little bit more recovery at the moment. Because basketball skills training is where the deficit at. It's not physicality, it's basketball skill at the moment. So I need to spend more time in the court, less time in the weight room. That's based on a need analysis. So once you've got the client up to a basic level of function, you then need to look at the bioenergetics of the sport that they're playing. And most team sports are going to be like highly anaerobic, so a very quick explosive thing with quick recoveries. What we need to consider though is, before we go purely into giving them high intensity interval training, is what supports the regeneration of ATP at a faster level and allows the client to bring down their heart rate from the anaerobic threshold faster. What allows them to bring down the heart rate below the anaerobic threshold into a recovery stage? And the answer to that is the aerobic system. And most people need a better developed aerobic system who are playing team sports. Just by doing that alone, it will reduce how impactful the sport is on them. It will keep their overall heart rate a little bit lower, so have improved efficiency, and it will give them better outcomes all around. So what I generally tend to do is I program people in 8-week blocks based around the demand that I want them to eventually do, and to get them to hit certain targets. So my first phase for most people is general endurance, so aerobic and cardiovascular and muscular endurance all put together, because I want the training qualities to work together. From there, I'll go into second level strength. Once I've got someone past the base level of strength, I want them to get to strength levels that I think will give them a little bit of a strength buffer for the sport. Will we achieve that in 8 weeks? Probably not, but we'll get pretty damn close. So like for soccer, for example, a 1.5 times bodyweight deadlift might be perfect. For rugby league, a 2 times bodyweight deadlift might be ideal. These are arbitrary measurements. There are predictor lifts. So Poliquin did some stuff in that with like things like front squats predicting start time in the bobsled, for example. I don't think you need to read into that too much. You can kind of make up your own predictor lift kind of comparisons that you want to have. Once you've done strength, then you want to convert that newfound strength to power, and then from power to power endurance. So the ability to repetitively display high power is really what all sports are about. So guys, that's kind of like my approach to training most athletes, particularly in team-based sports. What I'll do in tomorrow's podcast is I'll go through directional preferences and how to use sport-specific moves, if you do use them at all, and the actual nitty-gritty exercise programming and all of that. So that's an overview, like a bird's eye view of what we do with sports training. Any questions, hit me up. Speak soon.